So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another IATEFL Live. And today we're meeting another of our plenary speakers. Well, in fact, two of them. As we run up to the Belfast conference, which is getting ever closer. It's almost just about a month away now. So welcome. If you don't know me, I'm Sean Wilden, and I'm one of the trustees of IATEFL, and we run these live streams in order to bring you news about IATEFL and things about the conference. So as I said, the conference is coming up. If you don't know yet, it is the 17th to the 20th of May, with the pre-conference events taking place the day before. And obviously registration is still open. You can go to the IATEFL website to find out more. And today we're going to meet two of the plenary speakers doing a joint plenary during the event. And as ever, we'll introduce you to another member of the IATEFL Live crew. So I'm going to bring in Georgia. Hi, Georgia. Welcome. So Georgia is a face that you'll see more and more as we run up to the conference and during conference with the IATEFL Live channel. And she is going to be running today's live stream. So Georgia, I'm going to hand over to you, and I'll bring Hansa and Asma onto screen in a second.
Thank you very much, Sean. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much all for joining us. And I'm really excited to introduce you to two of our plenary speakers who will be joining us in this year IATEFL conference. So please let's welcome Asma and Hansa Abumazid. Welcome, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Georgia.
Thank you so much.
So first of all, where are you based in the world? Where are you from?
We are from Gaza Strip, Palestine.
In a very small village called Zawaida village.
All right. And can you tell us a few things about yourself? Asma, let's start with you.
Yes. So my name is Asma, and I'm working basically in the area of gender equality and development. So focusing a lot on women economic justice and how can women be part of the economy. I'm also focusing on the care economy, which is looking at how women do a lot of the care work, whether it's in education, whether it's in nursing, or in the household, taking care of their families and what that affects their lives.
I see.
And I am an avid gardener as well. I am a gardener. For all the gardeners out there, hi everyone.
This is wonderful. Before the live stream, we were talking about gardening. So I'm really sure we will find a lot of people who are interested in gardening, so that we can have a chat about it. This is great. Thank you. And by the way, what do you like gardening?
Mainly flowers, but like recently I'm looking more on peach and like apples and something like that, experimenting into this.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. And Hansa, let's move on to you. Tell us a few things about you, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hasna Abumazid. I'm a full-time mother of two boys, and every day is more challenging than the other. I work as an English teacher in a public school, and I also work as an English trainer in a private sector center for teaching adults English language. I'm an avid reader. I love reading a lot.
What is your favorite genre to read, Hansa?
Actually, it is history and mystery.
Oh, wow. Are you reading anything at the moment?
Well, I just finished a book. I'm going to start a book called How the Word is Passed. And it is an exciting book as I read it from the reviews. So I'm looking forward to read it.
Oh, this is great. I mean, we're looking forward for the review.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So let's talk a little bit about the plenary. So Asma, the title of the plenary is Education, English, and the Question of Future in Conflict Zones, in conflict areas. Can you tell us a few things more about the plenary, please?
Yes. So within the plenary, what we are trying to convey is really looking at education from a structured and a larger perspective into how education affects and is being affected in areas that is really conflict area. And what we are looking at is the systematic barriers that affect education. For example, how the economic collapse is affecting people's access to education and those who are working on education. What's the experiences of people in terms of education, and how education in itself and access to it could be an enabler to a lot of people, but those who do not have access to like high quality education might still be left in the trap like of poverty, and be left behind a lot. So and I'll be focusing more on how women experience that, and how education affects women experiencing whether to have their own businesses, or even those who are working in on the sector of education as women.
And so you mentioned that there is limited access to education. How can education impact young people in terms of their academic but also personal development?
Hasna?
So, I believe that education is an eye opener. It opens the doors for many things, and according to the personal lives, it can give students and give learners equality, self-confidence, and independence. And when we talk about academic, it will help them to have better jobs, to participate in an initiatives, for example, and to be able to adapt to the changes that happen in the world and explore the world itself, learning new skills and learning knowledge in the first place also.
And for Palestinian, really, education has been something that we hold into like throughout the years, because we know that by having education, then we will have more opportunities that would change our lives. And I'll just share an example. What the women we work with in establishing their own businesses, one of the main factors that they mentioned, that they went into a certain like educational course that really opened their eyes into a skill set that they want to learn, and then how that they took this skill set and started their own businesses. Of course, education is not the solution, but it's one of the most important factors that contribute to this.
Yeah.
That's great. And what role does English play in their business ventures?
So I would like to say an example. For example, in my school, which is in one of the most marginalized areas, we have a problem which is minor marriages, and where young female students get married, and we are talking about very young, I mean 13, 14 years old. And I noticed that after 3 to 4 years, they came back to school to learn more, and with focusing more on math and English, because they understood that they are not only responsible for themselves now, but they are responsible for a whole new family, and they have to complete their studies so they can have much and better opportunities to have a job and to work and to have financial support for them and their families.
And as Hasna mentioned, if you look at like the top skill set around the world that is being talked about, like technology and math as well as education is one of the key skills that enable people to have jobs. Most of the job requirement now, you have to have a good English skill set, and we've seen that with like freelancers, because in countries where there isn't much jobs and people go to the digital world to have jobs like as a freelance translator or web designers and so on, if you do not have an English language, you will not be able to compete in that global market.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so in this case, so with the cases that you've mentioned, what is the first priority to provide a safe and inspiring educational setting for young people to continue learning?
So I would like to share a story. I remember when I was in IU University in USA, and I attended a class, and the professor asked the students what is the most important thing in a conflict-affected area, and most of the students answered is education. And then she turned to me and she said, "What about you?" And I said, "Survival." So to be safe is the first important thing, is the first priority. To be safe, not to worry about your beloved one. For example, is it the last day that you are going to see them or not? And after that, we will talk about, for example, for psychological support, financial security, job security too.
And I think it's very important to look at, like, a rich environment for learning as something that really need to be locked from systematic lens. So if you need to have a healthy environment for students, then the environment around you, the places where these children are living, the conditions that they are living in, whether there are physical safety in their way to go to school and come back to school. And then there is also, like, to what extent there is, like, public support for education and the investment in the quality of education. And also how much we care for those who are providing education, because usually, like, teachers are forgotten into this equation. Most of what we do is that capacity building for teacher, rather than listening also to what their needs as caregivers, is something very important. And as Hasna has mentioned, like, mental health is an important aspect. And what we've seen with COVID is that most of the educational burden is being transferred to the household rather than schools, where mothers usually are the one who's taking care of their children and their educational attainment. Now, in conflict areas, what we see is that mothers have to navigate, making ends meet in low-income communities and marginalized communities, having to deal with the trauma that their children are experiencing, and then, like, forgetting their own mental health priority.
And I would like to say something that for my students, especially my female students, for them going to school is considered a luxury. Like, they are going on a trip to see their friends, because school is not only a place for education, it is a place for meeting their friends, for entertainment for them. So, yeah.
That's great that we can talk about mental health, and we can be open about this now, and especially what has come after COVID, really, because it is really a discussion that we need to have in the educational settings, and of course as teachers. And as you mentioned, teachers being left out of the equation is a very difficult situation, because we have to deal with our learners, don't we?
Yes.
Absolutely. So, speaking of the role of teachers and students with relation to resources, what are the constraints that teachers might be facing in situations like these?
So I have been talking about this with my colleagues just yesterday, and I think one of the constraints is the mental health issues. We will return to the mental health issues because during the discussion yesterday, like, one of them said, like, I don't want to go to school, and the other one said, like, I just yesterday have a panic attack. And you will notice lack of motivation for both teachers and also for students, of course. And teachers also have a problem and obstacle with a lack of resources. We don't have enough resources in our schools, and it is considered a financial burden on teachers, even to copy or to bring, for example, worksheets for students. It is burden on them. I think that some of that, and in addition to some of the constraints that you are always worried, which is also related to mental health, and there is something is in our culture, they consider that the responsibility of the teacher is to take care of their children inside and outside school. So you are responsible on them even if they are outside the school.
And I really think also one of the constraints, as Hasna mentioned, is with COVID, there is no boundaries anymore between when is a working hours and when is not working hours, because, like, all of the education has shifted online. And that's bring another thing that Hasna has mentioned, that there are a lot of challenges for families coming from marginalized area in accessing education online, whether they have access to internet, can they afford the internet? And when you have like 4 to 3 children and one mobile phone, how do we actually have an equitable access to education for these children is a big question that everyone needs to look at and even like explore. And another constraint, to what extent the realities that exist on the ground, and the talk about the future of jobs in the coming like 10 years or 20 years comes to areas where survival is the main skill that people need to learn. So like there is a lot of frustration, as Hasna mentioned, among students, because if they got educated and they finish university, and in place like Gaza where you have 50% unemployment, then that is like the more you get educated, the more you are hopeful. But then when your hope is being destroyed, like, no longer an avenue after you finish your education, that brings a lot of frustration.
Yeah, I would like to go back to what Asma said, because in one of my classes, for example, we made a Google Classroom, and most of the students, I have like in one class about 35 students, and about 18 of them, they don't have internet access, they don't have smartphones, they have that kind of old phones. And whenever I tell them like I'm gonna put like homework on the Google Classroom, and they will not answer, of course, because they don't have access. So at the end, you will feel that there is inequality and unfairness in putting basic questions for them, while you know that most of them will not be able to read it. So I think that's very important to think about.
Thank you for bringing this up, because that was actually one of the questions that I really want to ask you. So in resource constrained settings, what kind of material and resources do teachers use?
Well, we use, of course, the traditional ones. I talk about Blackboard, I talk about cassettes, I talk about the chalk. And also we try to use technological resources. But as we said, that we are faced by many obstacles, such as lack of electricity, lack of internet connection. In addition to that, we have, for example, 2 LCDs in 2 rooms in my school only. So I had with the 9th grade unit about overfishing and pollution, and I wanted to bring a documentary for them. So I had to check the schedule of electricity first. I have to arrange with the teacher who's responsible on the computer lab, and after a week, I can take my students to see this documentary, and it was really good because my students enjoyed it a lot.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned the word homework. Do the students complain about homework as much as our students do?
No, actually, no. I think in the idea that my students have, that they have already, they are expected to have a lot of homeworks, but we don't give homeworks a lot because, again, of lack of electricity. I mean, students will say we don't have electricity today at night, for example. So of course we will not give them homework when we know that they don't have electricity. So yeah, we will leave the homework for the days that they have electricity. And
I understand. So going back to the plenary, I want to ask you this question. So what are you hoping the audience to take away from the plenary?
So I hope that they have a better understanding for teachers and the students' backgrounds in Gaza Strip, and that even though with all these difficult circumstances that we have and all these challenges, that we are trying the best we can to develop education and to enhance our students' abilities and skills to join the real world and empower the society.
For me, I really want people to, every year, like every few years, we have the Sustainable Development Goal, like very big goals around the world of leaving no one's behind. And to do that, one has to understand the systematic constraints and factors that affect education, and how education is a piece that exists in a very big, puzzle. And to support education, then we really need to think about different elements. So to support education and high quality education, we will have public investment in education. We will have also private sector responsibility to ensure an affordable education for those. And I want people to leave thinking about where women fall into this. There is so much responsibility for women that is very gendered, that they are responsible for caring for their children. They are responsible for educating their children. And if we look at like who are the percentage of teachers around the world, women represent a high percentage of the workforce in education. Yet it's not recognized, it's not valued, not in like monetary and like in terms of like better wages compared to other jobs. And I think that the COVID has taught us that we need to reconsider these things. So I want people to take away that system thinking in the example of Gaza and in conflict areas.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And one of the questions I want to ask you is, in conflict zones, how can we motivate and inspire young people and women, as you mentioned as well, women who go through their own businesses or they have got their own families? How can we keep on motivating them and encouraging them to continue learning?
I'm going to guess that we've lost their connection, Georgia.
Yes, probably.
Let's see if they can come back for
Yeah.
a moment.
Yeah.
Hi, Hamza. Hi, Asma. You dropped out for a second, so you might need to start your answer again.
Oh, we're so sorry.
Electricity problem. Sorry, guys.
So my question is, how can we motivate and continue inspiring young people and women in particular to continue learning?
I think by giving them role models. Like when we have teachers who travel to attend conference, for example, our students get so excited as if they are the ones who went out, and they say, for example, you are not giving us only the ability to dream, but that we can achieve this dream. I think also by giving them more real stories, by connecting them with the word, and because at the end they will reach that at the end we are all human beings, and that will motivate them more to share what they have and to learn more.
And I agree with Hassan. I remember when you did the session with Nadia, who's leading, bringing women into technology and into the tech space from South Africa with the students from Gaza. That was like a very, very inspiring stories because we cannot leave. We need that virtual connection to see what's out there. How can we listen to other people, and how we understand that there are other people struggling to exist and also to learn and achieve things. So that's something that is very fundamental. And another thing is that really investing in giving the students the space to create and having more of that kind of space for them to create, to discuss. As Hasna mentioned, for students, the school is not only a place to learn, it's a place to connect, to have that kind of social capital, and we need to have more investment into this. One thing that we've seen in Gaza is that there is a lot of civil society supporting in creating such spaces for a student to connect and exist among each other.
Yeah.
And can I ask you a question? Who was your role model?
Oh, this is interesting question. Yeah. I think that it is my mother, because she was always excited about English language. She did not take her high school and she did not complete her studies, but at the same time she will always talk about English and encourage us to learn. And even we will watch, like, since we were little, we will watch dramas and series in English, sometimes without a translation. And I think that she has a great impact on me, and I'm sure about on you also.
Yes, yes. No, I can't say anything else after this answer.
Yeah.
Lovely. And I have got one last question for you. What are you mostly looking forward to at this conference?
I'm looking to connect with other English teachers from different countries to discuss the challenges that we have in our classrooms, which are very common in many countries, and to develop some of the personal and academic growth for me, and of course for my other English teachers who are looking forward to this conference too.
To be honest, after I've seen the video of Belfast, like at the beginning of the live stream, I was like, oh my God, I'm like very excited for the nature that I will be seeing in Belfast. But other than that, I think having this, being part in this space is an amazing challenge for us to also go out from our comfort zone, to get to know people and really think collectively on how and what kind of initiative we can do cross countries, across continents, let's say. And I think there are so many things that we can do. We just need that kind of connection and being in the same space to kick things off. So this is something I'm really excited to and I'm hopeful for as well.
Absolutely. And I'm honestly really excited to meet you both at this year's event. So thank you very much for your time today. Now, for our audience at home, please don't forget that the plenary from Hansa and Asma Boumezid is called Education, English and the Question of Future in Conflict Areas. And it will be on Friday, the 20th of May. So thank you very much both for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes, thank you very much to you both, and thank you for everyone joined in. As was alluded to before we started the live stream, we were talking about tea, and I'm also thank you for the tea tips that I learned before we went live, which I'm sure we'll share with people at conference if they want to know. So thank you very much for joining us, Hans Asma. I really look forward to seeing you both in Belfast. Thank you, Georgia, for leading those questions, and we'll look forward to seeing you. I'll look forward to seeing you again in another live stream. I'm going to take you both out the live stream now, so you can feel free to switch off your microphones, and we'll come to the end of another of the IATEFL live streams. I hope you enjoyed meeting Hansa and Asma today, and this introduction to the plenary speakers. If you missed it, then a couple of weeks ago we met Libor, who's another one of the speakers, and if you really like meeting the plenary speakers, then the good news is that on Monday, it's all of 3 days away, we'll be introducing you to the next one, and Naya will be joining us for a live stream, and that's this coming Monday, the 11th of April, and this one is slightly later, so it'll be 2 p.m. UK time, which is an hour later than today's. But if you want to see and hear what Naya has to say, she'll be joining Nikki and I to talk about her plenary. And then coming up after, then obviously in the UK there is the Easter holidays, so coming up after that we'll have a few more live streams about conference, so hopefully you'll find out about every aspect of what's going on. Before I end this one though, I did notice as I was getting ready for today that in terms of IATEFL deadlines, the IATEFL projects deadline is looming, which is on the 15th of April. And if you're not sure about IATEFL projects, it's a scheme which offers up to £1,500 to support teaching associations each year to undertake a project that will improve language teaching and learning in the local community and give opportunities to less experienced teachers to take an active role. So there is the maximum grant for that is £1,500. But if you know of a teaching association, a part of a teaching association, and want to find out more about how you might get that grant, then if you go to the IATEFL webpage, you will be able to see how you can apply for the grant there. And do bear in mind that the deadline for that is coming up on the 15th of April. Okay, I can't really finish without reminding you of the dates of the Belfast conference. So Belfast is coming up. If you want to join us live and in person, then you need to be registering for the conference, which starts on the 17th of May. And of course, as we talked about in a previous live stream, There are the pre-conference events which take place the day before, and all you need to do, if you're watching us on the Facebook channel, is our Facebook page. Go through the Facebook page. You'll see the videos of the PCE events. You'll see the other plenary speakers videos, and if you need any information, just drop us a line. Thank you very much for joining us today. It was a real pleasure listening to Hansa and Asma and learning about their plenary, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing it on Friday the 20th of May. All that remains to be said now is have a great weekend if your weekend is coming up, and I'll see you Monday for another Meet the Plenary Speakers. Thank you and goodbye for now.